The death of George Floyd has sparked nationwide protests and calls for police reform. This morning, Jeremy Bohannon with the Austin Police Department says he's working on that change, a change he says begins with community and relationships. And now he's joining us this morning. Jeremy, right now people are planning going to City Council to ask to defund the department, but you have a different solution. Tell us about your years-long work in community policing.
Thank you, Leslie. Before I begin, I just want to say thank you. You do an amazing job telling our story, and I just want to thank you for that. It's a really hard thing to do because a lot of things we do are not, sexy, I guess you say. These are the things that, I've noticed even 5-6 years ago when I first started, and, being in the community and trying to teach the kids that, hey, we're here to help you. And try to give them positive encounters, because myself growing up, I know that it's been a generational thing where we all have to get the talk. And at some point, I want to be able to not have to give the talk or have my son give the talk to his children, because I've already had to, at 6 years old, give my son the talk. And it's not just about policing, it's about racism and all of the other things that are going on in our country that, as a Black male, that I feel, and I feel as a police officer, it's my duty, since I swore to protect my community, it's my duty to do what I have to do to make sure that every kid believes that they can grow up in a country where they can succeed, they can be safe, and they can do exactly what it is that they want to do in life.
And officer, you mentioned the kids. For people out there who don't know, you were part of Austin POW. And I mean, the first time I met you wasn't out on a crime scene. It was you running a track with children and playing games with kids. Talk a little bit more about what that effort is.
Yeah, so, just trying to create community policing opportunities for our officers. A lot of times our officers don't get that opportunity to engage. I mean, when you're short in the department, it's really hard to spend time to do community policing and to stay on a call and actually talk and give a kid a sticker or help somebody with resources on a mental health call, or, and then you're leaving everybody else short, and that makes it unsafe because now you have officers going into calls by themselves because some of the other officers are doing community policing things. And so what I try to do is get out there and try to be that example for the other officers. Hey, we can go out there, we can have a good time. This might be the first time a kid is interacting with a police officer, and you have to think the more positive encounters they have, then the less negativity that they may feel when they get older, or even with adults when they have to interact with a police officer. And those are the things that, being an officer, I know that I can influence change on. And it's more of a generational type of thing for me, because I know that generation after generation after generation, people of color has not felt like we've had the same seat at the table, even here in 2020. And I believe that's why we're here. And I feel like all of the work that I was doing was building up, and I was trying to, do what I need to do to prevent what's happening right now. And now I've learned that I have to switch gears and do something a little bit different, because I don't want this to go in vain, because there needs to be change in the world. And I know that if I can do that, and I have people around me that want to also do that, then the world will be a better place.
I do have to ask you real quick, there were pictures of you. You went out to the protests. How are you yourself dealing with this as a Black man and also as an officer? There are people out there who are calling you traitor. How are you dealing with that?
It's probably been the hardest time in my life. I love what I do. And I love my people. And I know that, on both sides, everybody wants the same thing. And I think the biggest thing is nobody has the understanding. And so I've spent most of my career trying to get the community to understand what it's like to be a police officer, and how the people that I work with are awesome people, and they don't want to hurt anybody, and they just want to go out and make the community safe, and they have good hearts. But then on the other side, like I'm learning that, you know, as a police officer, I have friends that do an amazing job and they try to be fair and they try to do the right thing, but they also don't understand how the community feels. And for me, I've been struggling with that. And that's why I've been doing some of the things I've been doing, because I feel like, although I know it's not my fault, I've sat in those classes, in those training classes, and the training classes are amazing that we have. And I know it may sound cliche, but I feel like we have some of the best training in the country. And if you talk to, and I've talked to, you know, people with the Austin Justice Coalition and We Measure with Mimi, and I know that, you know, they've been helping us like create this department that is second to none in most places. But I know that we can do better. And so what I've started doing was actually having conversations with my officers and my friends and my peers and getting uncomfortable with them. You know, I saw Emmanuel Acho's thing about, you know, uncomfortable conversations. And, you know, and this was after I put my message out to the department. And, you know, I was just trying to let them know, hey, this is really what it's like. And when we're sitting in those training classes, it's hard because, you know, you think people understand and they may be like, yes, I know I'll never do any of that stuff, but they really don't understand what it's like to be Black in America. And all we're asking, and I tell them like, look, all these people are asking is that you understand and you support and you like just hear what they're trying to say and understand it and be an ally. You know, the blackout, that's why, you know, I told everybody, I'm like, look, like it may not mean anything to you, but it means everything to me. And if I can get people that respect me to get on board with what we're trying to do within the department and the things that we're trying to do and talk and understand the history of policing and how policing has not stood on the right side of justice, you know, and I try to tell them that. And then they start to understand like, okay, now let's talk about your experiences. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's, you know, and then things start clicking and, you know, they don't have to agree, but at some point you have to throw stats out of the way and just start talking to people and getting their experiences and just understanding where they're coming from.